We all want to build muscle. Muscle mass makes you look better, live longer, increases your strength, and also allows you to eat more. Building muscle effectively is a goal shared by many fitness enthusiasts, but the sheer volume of conflicting information can make it challenging to know exactly where to start. So today I've compiled some evidence-based insights from some of the world's leading muscle building scientists to create a pretty comprehensive blueprint of how to maximize your gains. Let's start with the basics. At its core, building muscle is a simple process. You need to lift weights and eat protein. When you weight train, your muscles start to think, if we're gonna keep lifting these heavy weights, I'd better start building some bigger muscles to make this easier. This is called an adaptive response, similar to how your palms develop calluses after lifting some weights. But lifting weights isn't enough on its own. To build something, you need building blocks, and when it comes to muscle, these building blocks are amino acids, which of course you get by eating protein. So when you lift weights, you're telling the muscle it needs to get bigger, and when you eat protein, you're giving the muscle the building blocks that it actually needs to grow. Now let's dive deeper into exercise selection. One of my favorite researchers in this field is Dr. Mike Israetel, a renowned professor of sports physiology, who also happens to be very hilarious. Make sure you check him out. He recommends using around 2 to 4 exercises per muscle group per week. This approach provides enough variety to target muscles from different angles, which could be helpful for muscle growth, but also makes the workouts have enough variety just so you don't get bored. Let's first talk chest. So Dr. Israetel suggests a combination of flat barbell or dumbbell pressing, some incline work, and some type of flying movement. This is going to target both the upper and lower chest fibers. When it comes to back training, he emphasizes the variations of pull-ups or pull-downs, rows, and deadlifts with strict technique as the core exercises. He also recommends flexion rows, where you let your back completely curl over and arch as you lower the weight, and then extend your chest up high at the top as you row for added back thickness. This will target all the muscles of the back, the lats, the rhomboids, the traps, and of course the erectors. For biceps, Dr. Israetel advises focusing on exercises that stretch the muscle, like behind the back incline dumbbell curls or cable Bayesian curls, which are my favorite. Tricep training should include a mix of overhead movements, isolation extension work, like cable pushdowns, and some compounding pressing exercises. Shoulder training can be simplified by recognizing that most rear and front deltoid work is actually accomplished through proper back and chest training respectively. I think you should focus more on the side deltoids. Exercises like double lateral raises, upright rows, and cable laterals as well. On to legs, don't skip them. Dr. Israetel recommends a variety of exercises. For quads on the front of your leg, you could target those with high bar barbell squats, Smith machine squats, leg presses, hack squats, and leg extensions. Hamstrings on the back of the leg should include hip hinges, like stiff-legged deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, as well as a combination of lying and seated leg curls. For juicy glutes, he suggests incorporating lunges, and the life hack is actually to have your front foot elevated a little bit so you have a deeper stretch on your glute, hip thrusts, and some deep sumo squats as well. Calf training, often overlooked, we're all guilty of skipping this, benefits from straight leg calf raises more than the bent leg seated version. Dr. Israetel emphasized the importance of a big stretch at the bottom of the movement, hold for around 2 to 4 seconds before coming up. And you can apply this with all exercises, not just calf training. I try to apply these core exercises and their variations in my own and my clients' routines, and I think the proof is in the pudding. A lot of the best physiques in the world have been built with these exercises. Now that we've covered exercise selection, let's discuss how often you should actually change your routine. So contrary to popular belief, frequently changing exercise can actually hinder your progress to a certain extent. Dr. Israetel advises sticking with the same exercises as long as you're getting a pretty decent pump, experiencing a good amount of muscle soreness, progressing in load and reps, and your joints feel pretty good. Only consider changing an exercise if it's causing you joint pain, not producing your results, or you're simply just not enjoying it anymore. And a caveat, exercise do not necessarily have to be the same every single week. They can cycle in and out every few weeks, which is something I like to program for myself. Moving on to training volume and frequency, Dr. Brad Schoenfeld, who runs a research lab dedicated to studying muscle growth optimization, recommends a range of around 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. This range can vary based on individual response and of course your own training experience. So for beginners, the focus should be on learning proper movement patterns rather than immediately just going to the upper ends of higher volume. Dr. Mike Israetel talks about this as well, highlighting some recommendations of maintenance volume, minimum effective volume, maximum adaptive volume, and maximum recoverable volume. Maintenance volume is how much volume you need to maintain your gains. Minimum effective volume is the least amount of volume needed to make gains, while maximum adaptive volume is the range of volumes in which you can make your best gains. And this one's much more of a range than the other volume landmarks because it changes greatly week to week depending on your overall fatigue load. Maximum recoverable volume is when the total amount of volume starts to become greater than your recovery, and that's when you start to impede your progress. I'm gonna add a graph of this on the screen here. I think it's gonna be helpful just to go over it because there's so many different numbers and ranges, but I think it'll give you a good insight on these ranges. Another thing that's pretty interesting is that research doesn't consistently show that training muscles more than once a week leads to better growth, which is contrary to the popular belief of the last decade. But when weekly volume exceeds the lower ranges of 8 to 12 sets per week, there seems to be a benefit to spreading the work across multiple sessions. Dr. Schoenfeld suggests an upper-lower split as a decent starting point, which could also be customized by adding a full body workout if you want a little bit more volume as well. And if you want some free routines, I do have a few of them. I will put 2 of them in the description below. One is a 3-day full body workout, and the other one is a 4-day push-pull split. Totally free. If you want some of those, there's some ones I just give out for free to people, and let me know if that helps you out. When it comes to rep ranges and load, Daniel Plin, a former student of Dr. Schoenfeld and a researcher at Built with Science, explains that a wide variety of rep ranges can produce pretty similar hypertrophy. However, the sweet spot for most exercises and individuals is between 5 to 15 reps using pretty moderate loads. This range balances the benefits of heavier weights with the reduced joint stress and also the easier failure proximity gauging of lighter weights. Although you can build muscle anywhere from 3 to 50 reps per set, provided you're taking sets close to failure. So to ensure continued muscle growth, progressive overload is crucial, and increasing either weight or reps can be equally effective for hypertrophy in this case. I recommend using a double progression approach, so start with a weight you can lift for 8 to 12 reps, focusing on increasing reps with that weight in subsequent workouts, and only increase the weight when you can comfortably perform 12 reps on all sets of an exercise. Now, I mentioned failure a second ago. The question of how hard to train, specifically whether to train a failure, I think is a pretty contentious one in the fitness community. Some like the high volume approach of some influencers where there are many sets but not training very hard or many taken to failure. Others, like myself, prefer fewer sets with almost every single set taken to failure. Josh and Zach from Data Driven Strength actually conducted a comprehensive analysis on this topic. They found that on average, sets performed about 5 reps short of failure achieved roughly 75% of the maximum potential gains. Each rep closer to failure yields approximately 5% more relative growth. However, while training to failure may lead to more growth in a single set, it also creates more fatigue. So if this approach compromises your ability to recover between workouts just from the extra fatigue, it may not actually be the best thing for your overall muscle growth. For beginners, I recommend you focus on good, safe technique initially. Don't injure yourself. That'll be very demotivating. As you become more comfortable with exercises, aim to leave around 1 to 2 reps in reserve for most sets, taking only the last set of each set an exercise to failure. And of course, this is with the exception of exercises where failure could be dangerous, like a heavy squat, don't want to be crushed under a bar, or like a bench press, no guillotine or anything like that. But again, feel free to play around with routines with a higher ratio of failure to total sets. For a potential edge in your muscle building efforts, there is a new technique making rounds on social media. Jeff Nippard, Dr. Mike Israetel, and all the guys at Stronger by Science, which is a great resource if you want to check out, by the way, have been talking about training at a partial range of motion, training at longer muscle lengths, or lengthened partials. I think there's a long-term study being done on this one right now, but multiple studies in the past have shown that this approach can provide 5 to 15% faster growth compared to full range of motion training on its own. So to implement this, try using about half the normal range of motion, focusing on the stretched portion of the movement. This technique honestly works better for exercises like lateral raises, bicep curls, tricep pushdowns, most back exercises, and chest flies. So think about isolation, single jointed movements. Incorporating lengthened partials into about 25 to 50% of your training could give you a solid boost in your results. So while training is crucial, nutrition plays an even more significant role in muscle growth. Dr. Eric Helms, a pro bodybuilder and scientist, explains that while a calorie surplus is often recommended for muscle growth, it's not always necessary, especially for pure spanking new beginners or those with higher body fat percentages. These individuals can often maximize muscle growth at maintenance calories or even at a slight deficit, especially for the people that are significantly overweight. But if you're lean and trying to gain some muscle, Dr. Helms recommends scaling the rate of weight gain depending on your experience level. So beginners might aim to gain around 2% of their body weight per month, which is roughly a 300 to 500 calorie surplus. Intermediates, about 1% of your body weight per month, so around a 200 to 300 calorie surplus. And advanced lifters, 0.5 to 1% of your body weight gain per month, around a 100 to 200 calorie surplus at most. I think this is a pretty solid rule of thumb just to avoid any excess fat gain. But what about protein? So protein intake is another critical factor in muscle growth. The general consensus in the fitness world is consuming 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, or around 0.7 to 1 gram per pound daily. Hitting this target consistently can account for 90 to 95% of your potential gains from protein intake alone. For optimal gains, I also want to emphasize the importance of protein distribution throughout the day. So research has shown that spreading protein intake evenly across at least 3 meals per day can lead to greater muscle size and strength gains compared to consuming the same amount of protein in a more uneven distribution. Keep in mind, this is the optimal for growth, but what is most important is getting enough consistently and also being able to fit it into your lifestyle every day. As for protein sources, a mix of animal, plant-based proteins, probably your best bet. Animal sources like beef, fish, poultry, dairy products like Greek yogurt, the yogurt of my people, some whey protein. For some plant-based options, legumes, beans, all some decent choices. And I also came across something interesting about whole eggs and how that may offer additional benefits beyond just the protein content. So a study by Bugari and colleagues found that us consuming 3 whole eggs post-exercise led to superior changes in body composition compared to egg whites, along with significant increases in testosterone levels, which I thought was pretty cool. Go eat your eggs. So now, how does muscle actually grow? I know listening to a lot of this can be overwhelming on how you actually incorporate this into your lifestyle. So I want to delve a little bit deeper into the physiological mechanisms driving muscle growth, and hopefully the explanation will make it a little bit more simple by the end of it. In 2010, Dr. Brad Schoenfeld published a landmark paper introducing the 3-factor model of muscle hypertrophy. This model proposed that 3 main factors drive muscle growth. One of them is mechanical tension, the other is muscle damage, and the other one is metabolic stress. Mechanical tension is undisputedly the primary driver of muscle growth within the scientific community. It's a type of force that tries to stretch a muscle fiber, similar to the tension in like a tug of war rope. Tension is passively created when the muscle is stretched and actively created during contraction, like actually lifting a weight. Now, muscle damage, once thought to be a significant contributor to muscle growth, is now considered less important. So while it does occur during training, causing micro tears and cellular disruptions in the muscle cells, recent research suggests that damage doesn't correlate well with muscle growth over the long run. In fact, excessive muscle damage can actually hinder your muscle growth. Metabolic stress associated with the pump feeling during high rep workouts was also once thought to be a key driver of muscle growth. However, recent studies have shown that the relationship between metabolic stress and muscle growth is also not as strong as previously believed. For example, shorter rest periods cause more metabolic stress, but significantly less muscle growth than longer rest periods, and that's just an example. Given these findings, the consensus is that mechanical tension is the primary driver of muscle growth. So to maximize tension, you need to apply progressive tension increases to the muscle itself. This means lifting with good, consistent technique while using some of the training variables I mentioned before and progressive overload to push the level of intramuscular tension over time. I'm a nerd, so I want to talk a little bit more about the deeper science of muscle growth. So at the cellular level, the process is pretty complex overall. So when you lift a weight heavy enough to create mechanical tension within the muscle, the stimulus is sensed by something called mechanosensors. These sensors then trigger a cascade of events, activating various pathways that ultimately lead to muscle protein synthesis. So one key player in this process is called mTOR, or stands for mammalian target of rapamycin, which is a major regulator of cellular growth, and mTOR is activated via exercise and protein intake. When activated, mTOR signals DNA machinery to produce messenger RNA strands, which serve as blueprints for building new muscle protein. These blueprints are then used by ribosomes to manufacture strings of amino acids. Through this process, various proteins are synthesized and created, including the large contractile proteins that make muscles bigger, as well as other proteins to support future growth potential as well. So basically, when the rate of protein synthesis exceeds the rate of protein breakdown, this is hypertrophy. Myofibrillar hypertrophy to be specific, which is basically an increase in muscle fiber size. It's worth noting that amino acids from dietary protein also play a role in this process. The amino acid leucine in particular can activate mTOR without any mechanical tension at all. This is why consuming protein in the few hours before and after your workouts could be beneficial for maximizing muscle growth altogether. So here is a summary of all the key points. I will do a rapid fire. Use 2 to 4 exercises per muscle group per week, focusing on compound movements and exercises that provide a good stretch. Stick with exercises that are producing results and only change them when you're necessary. Aim for 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week, adjusting based on your own experience and recovery ability. Use a rep range of around 5 to 15 reps for most exercises, again focusing on progressive overload through either weight or rep increases. Train close to failure, but leave around 1 to 2 reps in reserve for most of your sets to balance growth, stimulus, and recovery. Consider incorporating lengthened partial reps for potentially faster growth as well. Ensure you are in a calorie surplus, a slight one, but again, adjust this one based on your own body fat levels and experience. Consume 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, and try to spread it as best as you can around at least 3 meals throughout the day. Use a variety of protein sources, including both animal and plant-based options. Focus on maximizing mechanical tension in your muscles through proper form, and again, progressive overload. But of course, remember, consistency is key with any muscle building program. Stick to your plan, track your progress, I think that one's important as well, and make any adjustments as you need to. With some patience and some dedication, you'll be well on your way to getting jacked. So thank you for watching the video. Drop a like and subscribe if you're not already, and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see in the comments below. Talk soon.